ॐ वेदर्षयः समारभ्य वेदान्ताचार्या मध्यमाः योगीरां सुरत्कुमारपर्यन्तं वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां रत्नाकराधौतपतां हिमालयकिरीटिनीं ब्रह्मराजऋषिरत्नाढ्यां वन्दे भारतमातरम्. Buddhism, Jainism and Hinduism are sometimes considered as independent religions, especially by some Western scholars and even some of the Indian scholars. But the fundamental truth is that all these three have their origin in the most ancient Vedic philosophy. We found that Buddha, was adored as an incarnation of Mahavishnu. Though Buddhism and Jainism did not accept the authority of the Vedas, in Hindu sects, the authority of the Vedas are absolute. Once I quoted Raghuvamsha of Kalidasa, where he says, just as the Smriti follows the Shruti, Sudakshina was following Dilipa to the forest. So, in Indian philosophical terminology, the Shruti or later scriptures, Hindu scriptures, they invariably followed the injunctions of the Vedas, the authority of the Vedas. Whereas Buddhism and Jainism did not follow the authority of the Vedas, but still most of the concepts of the Vedas were accepted and incorporated in these two religions. Mainly the 5 great precepts propounded by the great Vedic rishis, Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteyam, Aparigraham, Brahmacharyam, these are all common for all these three religions. For the conduct of spiritual practitioners in all these three religions, these values are fundamental. We found that in Buddhism, the Hinayana very strictly went away from some basic concepts of the Vedas regarding incarnation and godhood, etc. But Mahayana, they adopted some of these Vedic methods of worship, etc. Similarly, in Jainism also, in later days, there were sects, some of which totally kept away from the Vedic injunctions, while some others who adopted many of the Vedic tenets and incorporated them. Today, we are going to have a look into the philosophy of Jainism. It is more a moral philosophy than a metaphysical or spiritual. Jainism stressed the fundamental concepts of the Vedas. The founder of Jainism is of Vedic origin. The Jains consider 24 Tirthankaras Ford makers, their utmost revered preceptors, these 24 Tirthankaras from Rishabhadeva up to Mahavira Jaina, who was the final one who consolidated the Jain religion or dharma. Among them, Rishabhadeva is supposed to be a descendant of the Rigvedic rishis, and he is mentioned even in the Hindu Puranas. So Rishabhadeva, the first Tirthankara, and from there up to Mahavira Jina. Before Jina, we find Lord Parshvanatha, and finally Mahavira Jina. They are all considered as Tirthankaras, or the highest realized souls. The Jaina philosophy, Ji means victory. The Jaina philosophy teaches that every individual must strive to attain or conquer victory over what? Over our worldly attachments, ignorance, etc. Conquering that is the highest realization according to the Jainas. Unlike Hindus, they don't believe in a heaven, a Kailasa or Vaikuntha, but the Jains believe that every individual sadhaka, he must strive to conquer his own self, Atma Vijaya. Even the Vedic, Upanishadic scriptures, they say ultimately the conquest of the self is the highest realization. And Jains also believe conquest of self. And those who have attained that conquest of self, they are called Tirthankara or Kevalins. Those who have reached the highest state of realization, they are called Tirthankara or Ford makers, because they can help other humanity to cross this ocean of samsara, and therefore they are called Tirthankaras. Now, Prince Vardhamana, who came to be known as Mahavira Jina of Vaishali, he was born in Vaishali near Patna, and like Buddha, at a very young age, as a 24-year-old youth, he gave up attachment to the world and entered into a spiritual life. Just like Buddha thought over the impermanence of worldly existence, on Jara, Marana, we come into the world is full of suffering, and ultimately aging and death, these are inevitable. These were the thoughts that pushed Buddha into the search of ultimate reality or truth. Similarly, in the case of Vardhamana also, he thought over 12 anuprekshas, matters of investigation he took up. What were those 12 anuprekshas? Matters of deep thinking. One, all worldly things are temporary. We have come into this world, we live here, and we depart. And another thing, all these things in the world, none is permanent. Everything comes into existence, exists for a certain period of time, and then all of them vanish. So all worldly things are temporary. The soul alone is the sole resort. What is permanent, always existing, is the soul, Atma, as our Upanishads have proclaimed. This world is beginningless and crooked. Nobody knows when this universe came into existence, and the way of the world, it is crooked. Things come, exist for some time, pass, change, inevitable, irresistible change is taking place in this world. There is nothing to keep the soul excepting the soul itself. For the soul, there is nothing which it needs, which it has to preserve. The soul is essentially pure, and the body, etc., are essentially impure. The soul gets attached to the body, but the body is impermanent and it is impure. Soul alone is the pure entity. Body, mind, etc., are essentially separate from the soul. Soul has nothing to do with the body, mind, and the intellect. It experiences things outside through the body, mind, intellect, etc., but it is different from the body, mind, and intellect. The impurities of the body, mind, and intellect will not affect the soul. The soul's bondage is essentially due to the inflow of karma in it. Just like in Buddha, when we come into contact with the world of objects, things, pleasures, etc., it invites karma particles which stick to the soul. In Jainism, karma is considered as dravya, substance, which sticks to the soul, just like a dirt sticks to our body. And because of these karma particles, that the soul is bound to the world. Every being ought to stop the inflow. So the inflow of the karma particles, because of our attachment to the world of objects, contact, that must be stopped once for all to get liberation. And emancipation is attained when karma is absolutely got rid of. This karma particles which affects the soul, it is to be destroyed. Just as in the Hindu philosophy, we found that vasanas are to be exhausted and we have to see no new vasanas accruing to us. Here, the vasanas, here they speak about karma particles that stick to the soul, and that must be stopped once for all. And emancipation is attained when the karma is absolutely got rid of. The 10th anupreksha is the emancipated souls remain at the foremost top of filled spaces. Jainism accepts the existence of space. Now we are in the worldly realm. There are higher regions, and the topmost realm is in the space is reserved for those who have attained the highest realization, the Kavalins, the liberated souls. That is the space. Once we get freed from all the karmas, from all bondage, we reach that highest empyrean that Jain believes. In this world, to have birth of a human being and to meditate on the nature of soul are the greatest blessings. So what is the goal of our life? To contemplate, meditate on the soul, realize the self. That is the purpose of human life, just as Hinduism has preached. And the 12th anupreksha is to have the three jewels as described by the omniscient is the only morality. So the moral life that we have to lead, to think of these 12 anuprekshas and trace them, carry them into our life. Mahavira entered his spiritual career, as I said, when he was 28 years ago, and he became a Kevalin. Kevalin means one who has reached the highest, topmost realized state. This Jainism, Jaina philosophy, is a form of ascetic ethics, moral philosophy, ascetic, stressing more asceticism. Renunciation is the essential aspect of Jainism. In Hinduism, we have got dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We say a man must pass through the stages, brahmacharya, garhastya, vanaprastha, sannyasa. But Jains do not accept all these things. These are not important. Artha, kama, dharma, moksha, and these four stages of life, they don't. They say that the only endeavor must be to go straight to renunciation. Everyone, right from the birth, one must strive to attain that highest renunciation. One need not pass through the dharma, artha, kama, moksha margas or through the stages of life. They are not necessary. Becoming a Kevalin, total renunciate, that is the samam bonam of life preached by Mahavira. So Mahavira prescribes complete detachment and vigorous form of ascetic ethics to be practiced by a monk to attain Kevala Jnana. So every one of us must strive to become a monk, a sannyasi, a renunciate, striving for the highest. For the ascetics, Parshvanatha, who was the predecessor of Mahavira, he had given some concessions that the monks can wear clothes, they can live in one place, etc. But when Mahavira took over, it became more ascetic. He rejected the idea of Parshvanatha allowing the wearing the garment, etc. He said a monk must be completely stark naked. He must not have even attachment to that clothes. So, those who followed Parshvanatha, they were Svetambaras. They used to have pure white clothes, of course seamless clothes, not stitched, they covered their body. Whereas those who accepted Mahavira's extreme asceticism, they became Digambaras. Digambaras means only the space is the space clad, they don't have any clothes, no thread on their physical body. So they became Digambaras. So in Jainism, these two sects came into existence. The Svetambaras, who used to live in the world, carrying on their spiritual activities, etc., wearing clothes. Digambaras, stark naked, always wandering, not attached to any place or anything in the world. This Jaina philosophy, it is a pluralistic materialism. The relation of the body and soul is one of identity and difference. As identical with the body, the soul suffers from the injuries of the body And as different from the body, the soul does not become extinct with the extinction of the body. When we are in the physical body, there are afflictions, there are karma particles getting attached, and because of there is suffering, etc. But at the end, the body dies, the soul ever lives, it is eternal and impure. So, thus the difference feature of Jainism is to accord in the philosophical scheme a place for every possible standpoint. Here, when they speak of things, the worldly things, etc., they say Anekantavada, whether the world exists or it does not exist. We found in the ultimate Advaita philosophy, there is nothing except other than Brahman. Brahman alone exists and nothing else. But Jains do not accept that. They do not speak about Brahman. They say souls, and not one soul, many souls. Each one of us have got one soul. It is different from, my soul is different from yours. And each one must strive to attain that ultimate realization. All the souls, there are many souls, and there is not one single entity called Brahman. According to Vedanta, it is Brahman that is reflected in every soul. But Jains do not accept that. Souls are different, and each soul has strive for its final emancipation. So, Jaina speaks about it. Syad Vada and Saptabangi Nyayas, sevenfold judgment, the real, it says, whether the world exists, whether it does not exist. The Syad Vada, Syad means maybe, may not be, the world exists, the world does not exist, the world may exist, the world may not exist. So there are 100 possibilities. We cannot speak about that, we cannot discern that. In some Jain temples, they have the picture of blind men trying to know an elephant by touching it. These blind people go and touch. One touches the trunk, another one touches the leg, another one the tail, another one the tusk. But this picture is given there that ultimate reality cannot be known. It is incomprehensible for the self to know the ultimate reality. So, Syad, it may be, it may not be, it may and may not. So, these arguments are there in Jainism. And Jainism speaks about Jiva and Ajiva. Jiva is soul, and all the rest, they are all Ajiva. Dravya or substance that constitutes both the soul and the Ajiva. And the multiplicity of world and soul, etc., it is propounded in the theory of Anekantavada. The categories of Jaina philosophy are 9 in number. 1. Jiva, the living beings. Ultimately, the Jaina philosophy, it is meant for people, human beings, in the process of evolution from lowest creatures, from slowly we emerge through different forms of life. Ultimately, we come to the human form. And for us to attain that highest state, the pathway is shown by Jina. and it speaks about jiva, the living beings, ajiva, the matter, the material world is there. It does not deny the existence of material world. In the Advaita philosophy, Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam, it is only an appearance, there is no existence for the world, soul alone exists. But unlike that Advaita philosophy of Hinduism, Jainas accept a jiva, matter is there, and then punya and apunya. Punya is good deeds, apunya is bad deeds, which attract karma particles. If we do good deeds, good karma comes. If we do bad deeds, bad karma comes. So punya and apunya is accepted. And the flow of karma particles which attach to the soul, it is called asrava, inflow of the karma particles. And this inflow is to be stopped. Controlling this inflow of the karma particles is called samvara. Samvara is control of the inflow of karma particles, and those karma particles that have already gone inside, attached to the soul, it creates bandha. So, the seventh category is bandha, bondage. The eighth category of Jaina philosophy is nirjara. These karma particles are to be flushed out, and this flushing out of the karma particles and getting beatitude, getting relieved of these karma particles, attaining beatitude, finally it leads to the ninth category, moksha or liberation. So, the liberated souls, they go to the higher planes of existence in space. They become Kavalins. Now, we will have a glance into these categories, just an outline glance into these categories. One, jiva, the soul or living beings. At the highest end of the scale of the souls who have conquered karmas, it is the Kavalin who has attained. The soul, according to Jainism, is bhokta and karta. Bhokta means one who enjoys the fruit of actions, and karta means one who performs all actions. The soul is both bhokta and karta. The soul is an extended substance, astikaya. According to Jainism, soul is a substance and it is astikaya, but it does not fill space like matter. Now the matter, it is in space, but the soul is not in space. This chair is in space, these things are all in space, but the soul is not in space. Two souls may be present at the same place just as two lights can illumine the same area. So, jivas, two things cannot be in one and the same place, but two souls can be in one and the same place. In its original nature, the soul is characterized by Kevala Jnana, omniscient knowledge, and Kevala Darshana, omniscient perception or insight. But in the empirical state, as bound by karma, its faculties become limited. When freed from the bondage, it is omniscient, omnipotent. But when it is attached to the world of objects, it is limited. And the limitation is caused by karma. There are 8 varieties of karma according to Jainism. The first 2, Jnana-avaraniya and Darshana-avaraniya. Jnana-avaraniya is that which obstructs the true knowledge, and Darshana-avaraniya, it obstructs faith. True knowledge of things and true faith is obstructed. That is the first 2 karmas. The third, Mahaniya, causes delusion, the affections and passions. All these are caused by this karma called Mahaniya. The fourth, Vedaniya, results in pleasure and pain. We enjoy happiness, we enjoy sorrow. That is because of the fourth karma, Vedaniya. The fifth, Aushaya, assigns the length of life to a person in the present birth. Aushaya, how long I am going to live, that length of birth, it is assigned by the karma. According to the karma, we exist. Some people will come, live for a long time. Some people will go immediately at a very young age. So, this length of life, it is determined by the karma called Aushaya. The sixth, Nama, furnishes him with all that belongs to him as an individual. All that I acquire, it is all by the karma called Nama. The seventh, Gotra, makes him a member of the class of genus to which he belongs. I belong to Kaushika Gotra. According to Jainism, the Gotra is determined by this karma, the karma called Gotra. And Andriya produces hindrances to the realization of virtues and powers. Sometimes there are obstructions in my path, and these obstructions are created by Aniraya. According to the merit or demerit of a person, karma Pudgala invades the jiva. The karma, Pudgala means matter. It invades the jiva according to the merit, whatever I have acquired in my past and whatever I am accumulating now. According to that, this bondage is created. Jiva is extremely light and has a tendency to move upwards, urdhva gamana. The jiva always tries to go upward, but it is the karma which brings down the jiva into the worldly existence. The souls are of different grade. The stationary, the mobile, the stationary souls, they are stavara, and the mobile, always in the motion, they are trasa. It is the mixing of karma particles that makes different conditions in which the souls find themselves. Our different conditions are because, according to Jainism, the karma particles. Now, regarding the ajiva, non-soul substance, what we find, apart from the soul, there are non-soul substances. dravyas, it is called. What are they? One, kala, space, akasha. First, time, kala. Second, there are five real substances. According to Jainism, time is a substance. Time, kala. The second one, akasha. And the medium of motion, that is called dharma. Medium of rest, adharma. And matter, it is pudgala. So Jainism speaks about this karma. First, time. Time makes possible the continuity, modification, movement, newness, and oldness of substances. So everything passes through time. Every substance has to pass through these time. And Jainism makes difference of paramarthika kala and vyavaharika kala. Paramarthika kala is eternal time and empirical time is vyavaharika kala. Akasha, the space, the function of the space is to afford room for the existence of the extended substances. Soul, matter, dharma and adharma all exist in space. Dharma is medium of motion and medium of rest is adharma. The material substances that we see around, it is called pudgala. Jainism views of the atoms, they are all of the same kind. Earth, water, fire and air are only derivative distincts. The fundamental substance atoms, they are one and the same. In various formations, they become water, air, earth, etc. Now, the third category, punya, merit. Punya is understood to be good action. Whatever good deeds that we do, that leads to virtuous karma matter to attach to the cell. And there are 9 types of punyas. Anna punya, the virtue of food, giving food to others, that leads to punya. Pana punya, the virtue of water, giving water to needy, thirsty beings. Vastra punya, giving clothes to the needy people. Layana punya, giving space for living. And Shayana punya, providing beds, etc. for the people. Mana punya, the virtue of controlling the mind, that is punya. And Sharira punya, the virtue of controlling the body, bodily urges, that is punya. And Vachana punya is talking virtuous matters, talking good things, not hurting others, controlling of speech, etc. And Namaskara punya, always recognizing the existence of a soul in every being and offering our namaskars. Papa, the demerits which cause bondage, recognizes 18 vicious acts. I am not going into all those things. So whatever action that is not virtuous, that is papa. Now, this papa creates bondage, bandha. Because of these activities, Jainism speaks of different types of bondage. Prakriti Bandha, natural bondage, Sthiti Bandha, the subtle bondage, and Anubhaga Bandha, the bondage of intensity, and Pradesha Bandha, the mingled bondage. These are all different forms of bondages according to the Jainism. Jainism spoke of asrama. Asrava is influx of the karma particles. Bhava asrava or internal flow is that mental state or transformation that makes jiva attractive and dynamic as a magnet to make it capable of attracting karmic materials. Dravya asrava or material influx stands for the karmic matter which is attracted and accumulated. So these are attraction of the karmic particles from outside. Now samvara, as I said, it is stopping of the inflow of the karmic particles by self-control. Stoppage of the inflow of the karmic particles, that is called samvara. And the next category according to Jainism is nirjara. Nirjara means whatever has accumulated, the karma particles, they are to be flushed out, removed, and that is nirjara. The Jains, they give analogies. Just as the stagnant water of the tank is let out through outlets, in the same manner, the karma, if the stagnant water is here, we create some channels to send them out. Like that, we have to send out all these karma particles. Just as the rubbish is swept, there is a lot of rubbish here, we take something to sweep and swept and they are removed. And just as the water that is accumulated in a boat, it is taken out and thrown out forcibly, that is nirjara. All the karma particles that have accrued unto me, that is to be removed. Always the karma particles come, just like creating a channel for the karma particle to go out or flushing it out, or if it is accumulated, then just like in a boat, we take the water and throw it out. Like that, we have to flush out all these karma particles that afflict the soul. That is the path of liberation. That is moksha. According to the most effective way is for moksha is tapas, relentless effort, contemplation, meditation, sadhana, abhyantara tapa and bahya tapa. Abhyantara tapa, internal penance, and bahya is whatever rites and rituals that we do, that we have to do. The notion of bondage is explained with reference to three analogies. Just as the sesame and oil are mingled, the soul and karma are intermingled through bondage. So they say, Jains say, just as we crush the seed and take out that oil, like that we have to crush our soul and remove all these particles of bondage. Just like butter is mixed with milk, but we churn the milk and take out the butter, like that these karma particles are to be removed. And third analogy, they say, is mineral is mingled with earth, gold, silver, we put it in the fire and then take out that mineral. Like that, we have to purify the soul in the fire of tapas. So, Jainism speaks of a removal of karma particles. That is the essential preaching of Jainism, and it gives triple jewels: right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. Right faith is faith in the scriptures, faith in the masters, right knowledge, understanding them, and then right conduct, translating them into our day-to-day life. The right faith, right belief has 8 angas or 8 limbs for a right faith. What are that? Niti Sankita Anga, unshakable faith in the Jaina Siddhanta. In our philosophy, we must have deep faith, no doubt at all about the fundamentals of the philosophy. That is the essential characteristic of right faith. Nishankankshita, entertaining no desires for sensual enjoyments. Once we have got the right faith, our mind will not go into enjoyments, etc. The third is nirvijikissa, to love the virtues for their excellent divine attributes without feeling disgust for their body. Virtuous people, we must get attracted to them, and we must not have disgust. Suppose, for example, Mother Mai of Kanyakumari, she used to sit on the seashore surrounded by dogs. Yogi Ramsuratkumar used to sit in a public place, in a marketplace, maybe in a dirty surrounding. But when we see such virtuous people, we must not be feeling disgust for the surroundings. We must be attracted to them. So, here Jainism says to love the virtuous for their excellent divine attributes without feeling disgust for their bodies. That is an essential need of right faith. And Anudha we should not be carried away by false creeds. If there are other creeds which distract our attention, we should not give up our fundamental faith and run after those creeds. Upaguhana, to remove criticism raised on Jainism. About the philosophy, there may be criticism. We have to remove all those things. And Sthitikarana, to intensify the faith of those who are wavering in the right path. Somebody has got doubts whether it is right or wrong. We must remove their doubts and establish them firmly in the faith. And Vatsalya, entertaining love and respect for one's core religion. I must love everybody who is in this path joining me. And Prabhavana, to establish the glory of Jaina Siddhanta by removing the dark clouds of ignorance. So these are all attributes of right faith. Right knowledge reveals the nature of things, and it comprises of 4 yogas. Prathamanu yoga deals with dharma, artha, kama and moksha. Here meaning, earlier I said that Jainism does not accept the dharma, artha, kama, moksha propounded in the Vedas, but they speak about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. They have got their own interpretation. Here, dharma, artha, kama and moksha are religion, wealth, enjoyment and liberation. The Karmani Yoga enables one to perceive as if in a mirror the divisions of space, the changes of time and the conditions of life. The Charana Yoga deals with conduct. The Dravyana Yoga throws clear light on tattvas, jiva, ajiva, virtue, sin, bondage, etc. And the right conduct, according to the Jains, the noble soul that has right knowledge on account of right faith begins to practice the rules of right conduct to attain the state of Kevalin, eradicating the right conduct. 5 kinds of conduct are mentioned. The first is ahimsa. Never commit any injury to anybody. The right conduct, sakala, which is observed by the ascetics, and vikala, which is suppressed by laymen. The right conduct in Jainism, for the people who are in the spiritual field, Jain monks, they have got very strict and rigorous practices which are known as Mahavratas, Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteyam, Aparigraham, Brahmacharya. These, they take it to the extreme. Ahimsa, you can see when Jain monks walk, if you have noticed them in the street, you will find them carrying a broom made of woolen strings. When they walk, they will just brush the path and then only walk, because small ants or insects may get crushed. When you are walking, you may kill some ant or a insect, and therefore ahimsa extreme they carry, and they won't take any food, for example, potato, onion, roots, because they feel that when you take that fruit from the earth, small germs, etc., might get killed, and therefore they won't eat that. Even that food which is derived, they won't take egg, but they will take milk, provided the milk is taken without harming the cow. So extreme observance of ahimsa, that is Mahavrata. Like that, Satya, speaking truth, not speaking anything. Satya also includes not speaking anything that will hurt the other people. So strict observance of Satya, Ahimsa Satya, Asteya, not taking the things of others and not taking anything more than what you need. That is also Asteya. Ahimsa Satyam, Asteyam, Aparigraha, non-covetousness, not desiring for others' properties, etc. And Brahmacharya is celibacy, observe, strict. So these are Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteyam, Aparigraham and Brahmacharya. These are strictly to be observed by the saints, monks, etc. But the ordinary laity, they have simplified all these things. We know in the history of Jainism, during the Gupta period, there were Jains, and many times they had to fight wars. When you fight a war, you have to kill people. But there, the Anuvrata, for righteousness, just like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna turns Arjuna to fight for the establishment of Dharma. Here, Jains also, they have got Anuvrata, simplified form. This Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteyam, Aparigraham, they are simplified and made suitable to the life of the ordinary laity. I cannot observe strictly ahimsa in my day-to-day life because I have to walk, I'll have to go, I'll have to do many things. I may, by taking this tool and putting it here, I may crush some insect below that. I am exempted. An ordinary man, he is laity is exempted, but a saint, they have the rules called samitis, Adana Nikshepana Samiti. According to Adana Nikshepana Samiti, if I take this tool and put it, I must carefully do it. I should not recklessly do it as a laity. So, these anuvratas and the injunctions, the vratas and samitis, guptis, anuvratas, these are the practical aspects of Jain life. The vratas, I said, ahimsa, satyam, asteyam, aparigraham. What are the samitis? 13 fundamental vows to be observed by the Jain ascetic. The Irya Samiti reminds a monk to be careful and cautious while moving about. That's what I said. When they move, they carry that broom made of wool. And then Bhasha Samiti, while speaking, they are very careful about the words that they use. It should not hurt anybody. The Isha Samiti included in the rules regarding the selection of place of stay, where they have to stay, taking food, clothing, these are all restricted, and those restrictions, they should not stay in certain places, they should not eat certain things. So these restrictions are known as the Isha Samiti, and Adhana Bandhamata Nikshepana Samiti. Adhana Nikshepana Samiti, as I said, taking things and keeping them. When I put the stool, I must be very careful. Even while doing prayer, etc., I should not drop things, the plate or the tumbler or the flask. I must very carefully lift it, carefully hold it, carefully keep it. It is very essential for a monk, because by putting down that thing, you are hurting that thing. That is also a dravya. So, this Adana Nikshepana Samiti, and fifth one, Utsarga Samiti, going out to the toilet, etc. You have to be very careful, observe. You should not rashly do that. And the caution that is to be undertaken. These are all called samitis. And there are 3 guptis, the third group of fundamental vows. The guptis are, so to say, doing the work of safeguarding an ascetic from thinking, taking, or doing anything wrong which would harm his or her conduct. Manogupti, the first of the 3, is pertaining to heart and mind. An ascetic should stop thinking or desiring of those activities which are by nature non-spiritualistic. An ascetic should never aspire to do anything that is non-spiritualistic. The second, Vachana Gupti, is pertaining to the science of speech. An ascetic must have control over his or her speech and should not indulge in those words or subjects which hamper spirituality. And the third is Kaya Gupti, pertaining to the body. An ascetic would restrain himself from negligent physical activities and indulge in those which help promote spirituality. So, body, mind, and intellect, these are the instruments for realization of the highest self, and they are to be very disciplined, very carefully used. Anuvratas, as I said, it is for the ordinary people. For the ascetics, very strict vrata. Now, as I said, for the Digambaras, they will not wear any clothes, whereas the Svetambaras, they are permitted. Now, in the early days, Jainism didn't allow women. They never accepted that women can attain moksha. But later days, the view was changed. Women can also attain spiritual realization, by observing these Mahavratas and the order of women ascetics. But of course, even today, the Jain monks always keep a distance from women disciples. They will not allow the women disciples to come and prostrate before them, unlike our Hindu monks and sannyasins. But the women are allowed to take up an ascetic life, and the Jains feel proud when someone from their family they takes to this ascetic life. They consider it as a great blessing for the whole family, and the family rejoices. Even young girls, they enter into the monastic order. So Jainism, its main aim is realization of the self. Now, regarding the Jain worship, etc., they, as I said, they do not believe in Brahman, and they do not believe in a god, worshipping a god. But in later days, though the Digambaras, they never do any worship, they never do indulge in any such thing, but the Shvetambaras, they do create their shrines where they install the deity Vardhamana Mahavira's statue or idol, and they do pujas, rites and rituals. Most of the Hindu rites and rituals they have adopted. For example, our Deepavali, Akshaya Tritiya, worship of Lakshmi, Saraswati, Padmavati, these are all taken from Hinduism. And in some of the Jain shrines, they even allow Hindu priests, those who are trained in our priesthood, they are allowed to perform pujas, etc. in their shrines. So gradually, more and more of our Hindu way of life, it is taken, absorbed into Jainism. And intermingling of Jains and Hindus, many of the Jain girls get married to Hindu boys, or Hindu girls get married to Jains. These are all allowed. So Jainism, of course, though they consider themselves as a separate religion, unfortunately in our Indian constitution, we classify them, the Buddhists, Sikhs, Jains, as non-Hindus and minorities, but actually they are part and parcel of Hinduism. As I said, Rishabhadeva, he is a rishi of the Vedic lineage. Buddha is an avatara. Guru Nanak, he collected all the ancient Indian scriptures, and from that he composed the Guru Granth Sahib. So, this system of Buddhism, Jainism and Sikhism, though they are considered separate religions, they are part and parcel of Hindu Dharma. When the Vishwa Hindu Parishad was founded in 1964 by Swami Chinmayananda and Guruji Golwalkar in Sandeepani Sadhanalaya, they invited all these people. Dalai Lama proudly proclaimed, I am a Hindu, I am a Buddhist. He is the head of the Buddhist sect. But he says, I am proud to call myself a Hindu because all the values that I have derived, it is from the Hinduism. Acharya Sushil Kumar Muni from Jainism and Acharya Tulasi, they are proud to call themselves as inheritors of Hindu Dharma. Tara Singh, Sikh leader, he said, of course, we are Sikh, but we have inherited everything from Hinduism, and therefore we will be part and parcel of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad. They have also joined hands. So ultimately, Hinduism has got different facets. Buddhism, Jainism, just like Vaishnavism, Shaivism, even among the Vaishnavites there are Tengalai, Vadagalai, they do not agree to each other. And in Tamil Nadu there have been conflicts between the Shaivites and the Vaishnavites. These are all because of ignorance in the lower level. If you go to the higher level, all these sects and sampradayas, they are part and parcel of the Sanatana Dharma. So, these Buddhism, Jainism, Charvaka, these are all considered as Avaidik, non-Vedic, because they didn't accept the ultimate authority of the Vedas, but they are part and parcel of Hinduism. In the next class, we will look into the Vedic darshanas, or those that accept the Vedic injunctions as ultimate. Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga. And before that, we will also look into the Charvaka philosophy. Charvaka philosophy is nothing. Absolute materialism, rejection of God, world, soul, etc. Enjoy life. We will see in the next class. Before we go into the Astika darshanas, just a short view of Charvaka also we will have. Jai Sri Ram, Vande Mataram.